Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my first impressions plus on-feet video of the brand new Mizuno Basara 101 in the launch direct blue, white, and black colorway. Now inside the box, all you get are the shoes themselves. They do not come with any extras. So let me get these guys out of the box really quickly, and we'll take a closer look at the replacement for the Mizuno Basara 001. That's now called the 101, as you guys can see by the branding on the heel. So this is Mizuno's go at a kind of thin synthetic lightweight soccer shoe, obviously the second generation replacing the 001, which of course we're going to be taking a closer look at in today's video. We're going to go over all the tech specs, performance features, what's changed from the previous model, taking a look at how light these things are, and of course taking a look at how these things fit and feel on feet. So if you are interested in learning more about the Basara 101, be sure to stick around and watch the entire video. If you guys are interested in a pair of these for yourself, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description. On that page, you will find buy it now links for the Mizuno Basara 101 that are out of the UK. It's the only place to buy them at the moment. And they're available for about $190 US. So as far as high-end shoes go, that's actually not overly expensive. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's go over all the tech specs, talk about performance features, as well as of course compare these things to the previous Basara, the 001. So with the 101, you're getting an upper that is basically made from the same materials, but obviously with some changes to those same materials. The upper is still made from prime skin, and the prime skin is all the blue you see on the upper. It's a thin synthetic material that I would compare to something like a Mercurial, but not a more recent Mercurial, more like something like the Mercurial Vapor 7, if that makes any sense, in that it is a thin synthetic, but it's not as thin as what you're going to get from a Vapor 10 right now. So if you want something that's thin with really no extra padding, but at the same time isn't paper thin, that's kind of what you're getting here. And in comparison to the 001 synthetic upper, this actually feels a little bit softer, a little bit more flexible, and it's just a nice improvement over what we got previously with the 001, which wasn't bad either. Now, what's kind of different so far, at least with the 101 versus the 001, is there's only one upper variation. With the 001, there was a synthetic and leather upper choice that made the shoe quite a bit different, but as of right now, things could change in the future. This is the only version of the new Basara 101 that is available. There's no leather option as of right now. As far as the rest of the upper is concerned, it's changed significantly coming from the previous shoe, which was mostly prime skin synthetic across the entire thing. This time around, you have what they're calling R-Fiber Control, which looks like a new material, but it's actually what we saw on the original model as well. Essentially what R-Fiber Control is, it's a lining material. It's a textile, so a really dense mesh that you can see lines the inside of the shoe. It's a very, very thin lining that actually does a good job of maintaining good structure and rigidity to the upper. So when you're making those quick changes of direction and some more sudden movements, the upper is going to maintain its structure. It's going to keep your foot locked in place. It's not going to have a lot of rollover, but it's also not adding bulk or thickness to the upper, being that it is a thinner synthetic. Now you have this material kind of scattered across the entire upper, especially here around the heel. This middle part where you don't really see the fibers as much is technically supposed to be a synthetic leather material. It does not feel like leather at all. It's actually quite thin and actually slightly elasticated as well. It feels really, really nice. And in all honesty, I wish they would have put more of this material across the entire shoe because it just feels really good. It's quite thin, as you guys can see by the side profile, and it's just a nice synthetic. What's also new coming from the original Basara is this kind of burrito style tongue, which is actually not too far off from what we're getting with the new Tiempo line, more specifically the Tiempo Legacy 2, except things are reversed. You have two normal lace holes at the bottom as opposed to at the top, and then of course the top four lace holes feature a dual lace hole system because of course it is one piece. This part of the upper from the medial side wraps across the top of your foot, whereas the lateral side, as you guys can see, is just a standard upper. So you're going to have a little bit of rollover in material here, but like I said, the thickness of the tongue is very, very thin. So it's not something that you really notice when the shoe is on your foot, and it gives you a nice clean kind of area to make contact with the ball in the main striking area as well as across the top of the foot, which is really, really nice. And for a burrito style tongue, which can sometimes feel a little bit weird if it's not executed properly, this one feels very normal from right out of the box, which of course we'll talk about a little bit later during the on-feet portion of the video. So no major complaints there whatsoever. It's an interesting lacing system that gives you nice lockdown when you pull the laces tight. And like I said, feels pretty natural on your feet. Moving to the rear of the shoe, you are going to find an internal plastic heel counter. The heel liner material is a smooth synthetic suede, which we do often see from Mizuno top-end models. The insole is removable and is the same in comparison to the previous model. Really like this insole. It looks like it's a mesh liner on top, but it isn't. It's actually a foam material with the pattern of mesh that's slightly grippy. So it's slightly grippy against your skin, but really grippy against your socks. So this does a really good job of keeping your foot from sliding around. Even once some moisture is in there, it just grips your socks quite well and prevents your foot from sliding around on the inside of the shoe, giving you an even more responsive feel than the shoe otherwise would provide on its own without this insole. So really cool feature, some perforations through the midfoot, and then of course it's made mostly from a single layer of this white foam that's not too thick, but it does get the job done. And like I said, the yellow part that looks like mesh is actually just another layer of foam. So similar to how Under Armour is doing their insoles on the clutch fit model, or how they were doing insoles on the clutch fit model with two different types of foams making up the entire insole with no liner at all. And then moving on to the sole plate and stud pattern, this is unchanged technically from the 001 model. With the 001, like I mentioned earlier, there was a leather and synthetic upper variation where both shoes actually had different stud patterns. This takes the stud pattern from the leather model, whereas the previous synthetic model featured less studs. It had 2 in the heel and a lot less in the forefoot. It was a layout that was reminiscent to something like a Mercurial Vapor 8 or 9, being that it's a firm ground stud pattern with fewer studs. But of the two, given the chance that I did get to use both of them, I did much prefer this particular layout that they did feature on the leather model that carries over to the 101 synthetic Basara model, which again, I think ultimately was the better choice. This is the better stud pattern of the two, so not complaining that they didn't carry over the one with less studs. As far as the sole plate goes, it's actually really unique in that it's pretty solid on your feet. It's quite flexible here, but it's also more flexible right here in the midfoot. You can see they have this flex groove right here. It's what they call a D-flex groove system, where it's a diagonal flex groove through the midfoot area that really gives you this sensation of kind of natural motion when you're kind of pushing off and your foot torques a little bit. The sole plate moves really nicely while still maintaining good structure. This black part is an insert here that is nice and stiff, but this part of the shoe, like I said, it kind of moves naturally. This is a movement that allows the forefoot area to stay planted in the ground, giving you as much grip as possible when pushing off, whereas the sole plate's going to flex with your foot. So again, you're getting that good grip because you have as many studs planted in the ground as possible. So really natural feeling from this sole plate. Really no break-in time required. It feels really good from the get-go. And again, it's a nice feature that really you can only get from the Mizuno Basara series. Nothing really feels quite like this particular sole plate. As far as the stud pattern is concerned, what's typical of a lot of firm ground Mizuno stud patterns is that the studs are quite large, which you can see is the case here. They're all bladed studs technically, but like I said, the profile of them is quite large in terms of their surface area. So they don't necessarily dig into the ground really deep, but they dig in just enough to give you that good bite, that good multi-directional traction, and it does a good job of distributing all the pressure underneath the sole plate very evenly. So stud pressure is not going to be an issue here whatsoever. And again, the overall performance is very good. Plus you get the riveted sole plate and upper, which is kind of a signature feature of Mizuno, meaning that you have a very strong bond between the sole plate and the upper, especially right here at the tip of the toe, which means that durability is going to be a strong point, which always seems to be the case with Mizuno products. You're buying good quality build kind of construction, I should say, and you can expect these shoes to last quite a long time. So if durability is a major concern for you, Mizuno is always a very strong brand to consider, especially if you're buying their top-end models. In terms of weight, I thought we'd compare the synthetic Mizuno Basara 001 to the brand new synthetic Basara 101, just to see if there's any significant weight difference between the two. So I'm going to be weighing both versions of the shoe in real time using this scale, and keep in mind as well that they are both the exact same size 9 US, so this is a very fair comparison. We'll start off with the 001, which is the previous model with the different sole plate and stud pattern. Throw that on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.35 ounces, the equivalent of 180 grams. So actually very light. We'll change the scale back to ounces, pull these off, and we'll throw on the 101, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.3 ounces, the equivalent of 206 grams. So you're talking about a weight difference of about a full ounce, which is significant to a certain extent. The 001 is definitely lighter both in hand as well as on feet. But even at the 7 ounce mark that the 101 falls into, it's still a very, very light shoe, just not as light as the previous model. And I think the weight difference has to do with the different upper construction as well as of course, the Soleplate and stud pattern that does have a lot more studs on it. So not quite as light as the previous synthetic Basara model, but still nice and lightweight and certainly a shoe that's not going to weigh you down. As far as aesthetics go, I don't love the look of the Basara 101, but I wasn't a huge fan of the 001 model either. I like the colorway, the combination of what they're calling direct blue, which is a really nice kind of royal blue color with some shiny and matte finishes to it, along with the black. I think just looks really, really good. Of course, you do have the Mizuno branding kind of closer to the forefoot area, which is kind of unusual. Normally it's in the midfoot, so I'm not too crazy about that. Whereas on the medial side, you can see it is closer to the midfoot. You have the Prime Skin branding, which I think kind of looks out of place. The 101 logo, which is actually kind of cool in that it's kind of little dots, I guess that's the best way to describe it. You have a Mizuno logo right there on the back of the heel. Mizuno logo right there on the top of the tongue that you can't really see when the laces are actually tied. The insole is bright yellow, which looks pretty cool. And then the sole plate is all royal blue in color with a little bit of black peeking through. And then of course the studs themselves being completely translucent. So it's definitely an interesting looking shoe, especially with this graphic they have in the matte coloring going across the prime skin area of the upper. But nonetheless, that's what I think of it. Let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comment section. Do you like how these things look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and of course what the sizing is like. All right, so here is a look at the Basara 101s on feet. On my left foot, I have the stock black laces that come with the shoes. And on my right foot, I have a pair of royal blue reflective SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. You find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. Now, in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, they're a lot different from the previous synthetic Basara 001. The 101 obviously features a completely different construction in terms of having that kind of one-piece burrito style tongue, but also they've changed the shape of the upper in that there's a lot less room in the toe box area, especially it's a little bit lower volume, which ultimately I think makes for an improved fit overall. You don't have as much dead space on the inside and you get a nice kind of one-to-one feel, which is kind of what you're looking for from a thin synthetic upper. The material itself is a lot softer than the previous iteration of Prime Skin we saw on the Basara 001. So break-in time really isn't going to be all that significant with this shoe. They feel pretty comfortable from the get-go, which is always a nice thing. And with this burrito style tongue, I'm always nervous about it not really wrapping your foot properly and just being a little bit disformed and kind of uncomfortable, but this wraps your foot pretty much perfectly. You got to be a little bit careful about how you put them on and just make sure there's no creases or anything like that. But once they're on and you tie the laces tight, it's very, very natural. There's no overlapping materials. You don't feel like you have a lot of excess kind of bulk on top of your foot, which again is kind of what you want from this style of a soccer shoe. And again, you feel nice and locked in. The shoe is very secure. The upper is well supported. The lacing system runs nice and deep so you can get a nice tight fit across the entire foot. And for the most part, it's just an improved fit over the original Basara, which is kind of what you want to see from a shoe that's replacing an older model. So no complaints there whatsoever. It fits really, really well. As far as width is concerned, it is a tighter fitting shoe. The material itself really isn't going to stretch. It's not the widest through the midfoot especially, so if you have wide feet, probably not the best option for you. But as far as thin synthetic uppers go, or thin synthetic shoes, they have some decent width to them, so they're going to be suitable for most people. But again, if you normally struggle with width, probably not the best option. As far as sizing is concerned, they run true to size. I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So just like the original Basara, they run true to size. So if you are looking to order a pair, I would recommend going for your normal size in order to achieve the best possible fit. All right, guys, that is it for my overview of the Mizuno Basara 101. Expect to see more follow-up content on this shoe in the near future once I've had some time to try them out. In the meantime, if you guys are interested in more info on these things, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find high quality images of this exact pair that I took myself that'll give you a better idea as to how they actually do look in person, as well as buy it now links where you'll be able to pick these guys up for their $190 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions at all regarding the Basara 101, leave them down below in the comments and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.